And the cell door that just took so many people to open and so much WD-40 slammed shut on its own volition. I was stuck in the cell for an hour.
There's a force in all of us that science knows nothing about, the force of fear.
Welcome, everyone, to Induced Fear. I'm your host, Oscar, and with me, I have Nate Elwell, who is a paranormal researcher who has been in it for 17 years, over 17 years, right? A little over 17 years?
Yeah, a little bit over 17 years.
And he dives into all realms of the paranormal. It's not just ghosts. It also goes along with cryptids, things like that, all realms of it. How are you doing, man? And thank you for coming on.
Let me tell you, I am doing great, and no need to thank me for coming on, man. I am blessed for the opportunity to come on and talk to you.
Yeah, it's always good when I mean, from your videos, the things you post, the work you do, you're more of somebody who, provides an explanation for things. And that's what I like, because that's what also I like to do.
I feel like in the paranormal, it's absolutely a necessity to keep the field credible. And so if you have people out there posting things for clout, posting things for money, those people need to be called out. And people who, like myself and you, like-minded people who can sit here and actually look at this and be like, hey, this might have a natural explanation, but how can I actually figure out what that explanation is? Those people are needed in the field.
Exactly, 100%. Now, you touched it a little bit before we hit record here, but what was your introduction into the paranormal, your origin story when it comes to being in the paranormal community, the world?
So I've always had an interest in the paranormal. As a matter of fact, the first book that I can recall checking out from my school library was the 13 Alabama Ghosts in Jeffrey by Catherine Wyndham Tucker. And it's a great book. The whole series is great. My ninth grade book report, I actually did on Area 51. So kind of tells you where I go from ghosts to Area 51 at that young of an age. But what got me into investigating the paranormal was we used to have a dog named Stormy that was about a pit bull that we owned and loved that dog to death. She used to sleep in my room every night. Got to the point where old age got the best of her. She couldn't hold her facilities and she started going to the bathroom on my bed. Well, I kicked her out of my room, and the next morning my father woke me up saying that Stormy had died. He found her underneath the coffee table in the living room. It was the day after that I started hearing strange knockings in my room. I started experiencing weird cold spots throughout the house. I'm not saying it was the dog, but what kind of culminated was at one point in time, I was having all these experiences and I was telling my friends about them. Yeah, we don't believe that. We don't believe that. And then several of them came over and stayed the night and they experienced literally these same things I was experiencing. So there was a night I was half asleep and I felt something tugging at the foot of my bed, like on my blanket. And me being in a groggy state, I'm thinking it's Stormy. She recently died. It's fresh in my mind. So I was like, Stormy, stop tugging on my blanket. So I kind of kicked my foot back and I hit something solid. And whatever I hit said my name in what did not sound like a human voice. And I'm not saying it was a demon because I per se don't exactly believe in demons. But I can tell you that it made every hair on my body stand up. And I slept with my bedroom light on for probably a good 4 or 5 weeks. Fast forward 4 years. I was married at the time, living in a trailer in a small town called Clayhatchee, Alabama. We had been having some paranormal activity in the trailer that we were living in. I used to work night shifts. I would go into work at 3 p.m., get off at 2 a.m. I'd come home, the kitchen light would be on, and I would see shadows moving through the lights of the kitchen from outside. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why is Teresa still up? Teresa's my ex-wife, by the way. I'm like, why is she still up? I go inside and everyone would be asleep. So this went on for several weeks. And then it was a night I came home from work. I didn't see the shadows. And I thought it was a little bit odd. I laid down in bed, fell asleep. And at about 3:10 in the morning, I woke up with this overwhelming sense of fear. And I couldn't move. It felt like there was a pressure on my neck and my chest. And it took what seemed like hours to shake it off. But if you've ever experienced sleep paralysis, let's be honest, it's only a matter of seconds. When I finally shook it off and I was able to sit up, there was a black silhouette that was darker than dark. Because in this town, very few street lights. So when the lights went off, it was literally pitch dark. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face if you held it out like half a foot. I could see this figure standing at the foot of the bed, and it drifted backwards into the hallway. As I watched the figure dissipate, the light bulb in the hallway got extremely bright and then shattered. The light bulb shattering woke my ex-wife up, and she's rolled over and she's like, "What in the hell was that?" And I said, "I'll be honest with you, I don't know." And the next day was the day I bought my first paranormal book, which is a Ghost by Hans Hauser, and I started like doing the deep dive. I started doing all the research that I could, and 17 plus years later, here I am.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. What's interesting is that usually when people break up out of their sleep paralysis, everything is back to normal, but you still had like things going on, which kind of
Right.
leads towards it more being of a paranormal experience rather than a stress induced sleep paralysis moment, which
Yep.
is super
And a lot of people
interesting.
get that confused. Yeah, a lot of people get that confused. There's a difference between a stress-induced sleep paralysis moment and a paranormal sleep paralysis moment. Now, in my case, considering the fact of what I felt in my chest and my throat, they would call that in the paranormal an old hag attack. So
Yeah.
typically, an old hag attack is someone who has placed negative energy on you, and that negative energy is coming back and negatively affecting you, which is why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. It's not all that common that you actually experience that with sleep paralysis moments, which is why I would say 80% of sleep paralysis moments could be considered some kind of stress-induced sleep paralysis.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'd like to hear, if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd be interested in hearing your experience.
Yeah, my experience was basically at a young age had my father pass, and then I remember just calling out into the ether like, "Hey, anything, just let me see my dad one more time." I mean, I was young. I was 7, I think. Um
That's a rough age to
so I
lose your
just put
father.
that. Yeah. But I put that call out just to anything. I was like, I don't care what it is. It wasn't towards like God or anything specific. It was just anything out there. Let me see my dad again. And that's when things started to happen. And at first it would start with a shadow figure kind of just in the corner of the room. And then just one night, I remember opening my eyes. It felt because sometimes you can feel when somebody's really close to your face.
Oh yeah.
And that's what it felt like. It felt like somebody was in my face. So I opened my eyes, and like you said, it was darker than the darkness of the room. And I couldn't move. And it felt like something was holding me down. I tried to yell for my brother because we shared a room at the time. I couldn't make any words, nothing.
Words don't come
Every
out.
time I felt like I was letting out just the tiniest bit of anything, it was the last bit of air. And then it felt like I was suffocating. And then out of nowhere, snap, I'm sitting up in the bed. My brother is still asleep. Whatever it was is gone. And I just turn on the TV just on a static, just so that there was light in the room. Um, and I just sat there in the bed, like terrified. But that was my draw into the
Yeah,
into the paranormal.
exactly what you just described to me would be completely indicative of what is known as an old hag attack. Um,
Yeah,
you can't get words out. You can't speak. You can try, and sometimes in your head it sounds like you're yelling, but it comes out as a very low whisper. It's
yeah,
so weird.
yeah. Mine was almost like just letting out little squeaks of air. That's all. That's all it felt like was just like little squeaks of air. And every time I tried to do it, but I was completely aware of everything in the room, which is why I could tell that this thing was just darker than the room. Like there wasn't even a window big enough to let a bunch of light in. It was the tiniest little slit of a window in that room, um, and it was completely dark in there. But yeah, and after that, it would happen periodically throughout the years. It would keep happening. So as it continued to happen, I would be more interested in paranormal. What is this? What's going on? Is anybody else experiencing this? And then that leads you down that road.
So I can tell you, if anyone watching this is more interested in what happened to me and my story, I do have a YouTube channel that I have a 3-part video explaining it in much more detail. Just I know that we're on a limited time frame here, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
take up too much of that time with that story.
Oh no, you're fine, man. You're fine. Uh, I think either way, you've kind of set the precedence on what brought you into the world. Even with that, like I said, it was interesting the fact that you had things continue to happen even after you snapped out of your paralysis,
Yeah,
especially with the light bulb exploding.
yeah, and I've never experienced that. Typically, you have it, power surges, what have you, but I've never experienced anything quite like that where the light bulb got so energized that it shattered.
Yeah, no, that's super
And my
interesting.
initial thought, and my initial thought there was straight fear, because it was heading down the hallway in the direction of my daughter's bedroom. It's basically like, you hear a noise in your house and you think it's an intruder, and you
Yeah,
go and you try and figure out, hey, what is in my household and what the hell is it doing here? And so you instantly go into that parental protect mode.
yeah, exactly.
And my daughter oddly, who wasn't awake for any of this, when I tell her about that day, and I don't think she was over 7 months old, couldn't have been over 7 months old. She
Wow.
claims to have recollection of it.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, well, I don't understand how that's possible. Most people, at that young of an age, don't get me wrong, if it's a severely traumatic event, then yeah, you might have memory of it, later on in life. But she says she remembers me opening the door that night and checking on her and asking her if she was okay. And I'm like,
Mm.
you're almost 18. She's going to be 18 in July. And I'm
Yeah,
like, how do you remember this?
yeah. Especially, I mean, for her, it was probably a minuscule moment, like of you just coming in to check on her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So maybe there was something that went on behind the scenes after I shut the door that I don't know about, that she's never actually told me about,
Yeah.
which that would be the only logical reasoning I would have for her to be able to remember that event from such a young age. But you know what? If something like that did happen, then she'll talk about it when she's ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it takes people time to speak on certain events that either is either scares them or they don't understand it, and it's all this whole process that they have to work through.
No,
Um,
and that's 100% right. Like, I do a lot of residential cases, and a lot of the people that come forward, they're pushed by their friends and their family. Hey, go and talk to this guy. He might be able to help you. And that's why, I'm not as well known as far as in the paranormal when it comes to YouTube videos and stuff like that, because like I do
yeah.
everything 100% legitimate. I give my clients confidentiality agreements stating the fact that I'm not going to in any way disclose their information, nothing like that. And so a lot of my stuff is not well known because I do things to help people. I don't do it for the money. And the
Yeah.
TikTok, I don't even get paid for my TikTok videos. So
Yeah.
I just do those for fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it's been for me when I did my investigations. It's just been no real, it's like me helping somebody out, but I get no I'm not doing it to just further my name. It's just like, okay, here's more research. It's research. The thing that I'm getting from it is the research, the experience of it.
Yes. And let me tell you, and I feel like I can say this, and as I told you earlier, I don't care if people like me. I don't care if they don't. It's my opinion. It is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
I hate the fact of people who charge people for investigations if they are calling them for help.
Yeah.
Why are you charging these people who are calling you for help? I can understand you have equipment you need to buy, maybe repair, you have battery stuff. Don't charge them a set price. Tell them, hey, we're coming to do this. If you can donate to the cause,
Yeah.
then I would greatly appreciate it. But if you can't, our services are 100% free of charge. And the reason I say that, and it may not be the way that other paranormal researchers, well, I'm going to say actually ghost hunters. I'm not going to call them researchers. Typically, these people deal with ghosts. Um,
Yeah.
the reason that it's so important they do that is because if this client is paying you to do a job, then you are expected to find results. You are going to go through your evidence and nitpick it to find any single little thing that you could bring to their attention and to the table at the time of the reveal of what you found during your evidence review. And that could be as simple as a shuffle on the carpet when one of your investigators wasn't properly trained and didn't properly tag the recorder. It could be as simple as someone bumping into a table and an object falling over, but maybe you didn't realize they bumped into the table. You're being paid for a service. Now you have to bring results. If you do it for free, you can bring in the 100% legitimate truth without the downfall of feeling as though I didn't provide the proper service.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not even feeling like you provided the proper service, but even like, just kind of, what's the word when you just try to make it seem like it's something that it's not. You're just like
Right.
really feeding into whatever narrative that they were saying, kind of make it scarier for them. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is make it so that they're not afraid of whatever is going on if something actually is going on.
Yes, you want them to be able to take their house back and live in their house
Yeah.
comfortably. And that's why there's a lot of teams out there. And if any of your teams are watching this, I apologize if I offend you. There's a lot of teams out there that are not fit for residential investigations.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go about it the wrong way.
Yeah, where it's more of just, okay, we're here to prove that the ghosts exist rather than we're just going to get answers about the whole thing.
Right. Or they do their, I'm going to go on live stream later and live stream the investigation. You should never live stream inside of a client's home.
Yeah,
Point blank,
that'd be pretty weird.
period. That is not okay. Not
Yeah.
just that, but you being on the live stream could affect the equipment that you're using, such as if you have a REM pod or you have an EMF detector. Guess what? Your phone's going to alter the results that you're getting from these devices.
Yep. 100%. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that if you're waving your phone, if you're recording and waving your phone over a certain device, your phone is giving off the electromagnetic, like the EMF
Yes.
as well. It's electric, so it's gonna do that, and it's letting out a signal.
And you would be shocked at how many people don't believe that your phone emits an electromagnetic field. Take your phone. If you're a paranormal investigator out there, take your phone, put it up to a K2.
Yep.
Prove me
Even
wrong.
if you have it on airplane mode, I've tested it, and even on airplane mode, it'll still let out a signal.
It will.
Yeah.
And that's why when I do my investigations for private residences, now if I'm at like a public ghost hunt, right? I can't tell everyone I want you to shut your phone off, because you know what? Everyone might have different things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
But if I am at a private investigation with my team, everyone knows as soon as they walk through that door, their phone doesn't go on airplane mode. The phone gets shut off.
And is that part of your process when you go into a home? Like the beginning of it, everybody turn off phones, and then you start to break down how the investigation is going to go?
So actually, when it comes to my style, I have a little bit of a long process. I start off with an initial phone interview. I interview over the phone. Once that's done, I have all my notes taken. I meet the client in person. I interview them a second time. And the reason I do this is because I'm looking for variations within the story. If they can hold their story true through 2 different interviews spaced out, typically I give about 2 weeks. Sometimes I've gone as long as 3, but it's typically a 2-week period. If they can hold their story true for a 2-week period and everything aligns, that means there was no memory lapse, there was no misconstrued information. There's probably not a chance that they are making up the story, because that's what you have to look for when you're doing these client interviews, is you have to look for variances in the story, because variances in the story can honestly make you think, hey, maybe this could be a mental issue. Maybe this could be a hallucination. Maybe this could be a drug-induced thing, and I have encountered that once, and that's a fun story. But so once the secondary interview is done, I go to the property and I sketch the property. The reason why I do this is because I'm looking for anything outside of the property that could interfere with the investigation within. I'm looking for power power lines close to the house. Typically, if you have a mainline power line running within 10 feet of your house, the EMF in that house is going to be naturally higher. And so EMF, it can cause all kinds of things. It's called electromagnetic hypersensitivity. It can cause rashes. It can cause you to be physically ill. It can cause hallucinations. It can cause all kinds of havoc within your actual internal system of your body. So if you are hypersensitive to that, then that is something that definitely needs to be noted. I'm also walking through the location, sketching possible hazards. Hey, there's a loose step here. If my team goes down that staircase, I want to make sure that I know that my team is safe. So
Yeah.
there's multiple reasons for the way that I do things, and a lot of people think it's a little bit too involved, but it's not. It's not too involved. It's being thorough.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that, especially with the fact of wanting to keep everybody safe within an unknown location because you don't live there, you know?
Right.
So it
And I
definitely
also
makes
ask,
sense on that end.
and obviously there's other questions that I have to ask, and if they can't answer them, then I'll pull property surveys and such as is there a a waterway running underneath your home? Do you know what the foundation of your home is built out of? Because I'm looking for limestone, I'm looking for waterways, I'm looking for something that will create a paranormal battery, so to speak.
Okay.
And if they don't have that information, then obviously I have to do a little bit more digging myself, which is fine. Um, Public records and house records, typically you can get those from your courthouse and they don't cost you anything. So,
Yeah. Have you noticed? I interviewed another paranormal investigator, researcher a while back, and he was conducting an experiment when it has to do with UV, the UV index. So when the UV index is high or when it's opposed to when it's low, have you noticed any difference in if there's a full moon, is there less activity? Because he says that the UV affects them in a way that doesn't allow them to do anything really, or it's very low
so
activity.
what I can tell you from my research into this, I have looked into it a little bit, but I have not looked into it very extensively. What I can tell you from my research is typically when it's a full moon, people do seem to get a little bit more activity, but at the same time, every time that I've gotten a report from somebody and they've been able to give me a physical date, and I go back in the calendar and I look, it's during a new moon.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe there is something to this theory. I can't credit it. I can't discredit it. But I can tell you that it is kind of odd how you get such a variance in between. Because you would think that if a home is paranormally active, whether or not it's a new moon, a waning moon, a waxing moon, it shouldn't really matter. The activity should remain congruent.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I was just wondering in that aspect because I thought it was interesting when he brought it up. And as somebody, you go out and do residential homes, I would imagine it's different times. It's not a special event. So you're not going specifically on a full moon or anything like that. Um,
Right. And you
so it
know,
would be
and you have to and you have those cases of like the residual haunts or the stone tape theory where
yep.
everything plays out as say a CD stuck in skip or a VCR tape that you not rewound, just rewatching the same thing over and over and over again. It's going to happen at the same time of year every year, regardless of whether or not you have someone come in and bless your home. It's
Yeah.
going to happen because it's not a spirit, it's an energy that is trapped within the home. When you think about it, why do people go to battlefields? They go to battlefields because they want to find the hauntings at battlefields because so much blood has stained the ground. So much blood has
Yeah.
stained that ground. I want you to think about your home as a battlefield, not for the blood, but for the emotions that people put out within that home. Whenever you are expressing emotions, they get stuck in the walls of your house. That's why there's so many people out there who own haunted mirrors. Think about the emotions that a mirror has seen. How many people out there looked into a mirror and cried, or looked into a mirror and said, I can't stand who you are, or looked into a mirror just to smile because it was so happy? That is all imprinted energy.
Yeah. No, I believe that, especially when it comes to people who, let's say, lived in a hostile environment within their home or it's just negative altogether. Sometimes those homes are where you would have activity happen just because it's filled with so much negative energy.
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a lot of what I like to tell people too, because some people will say that it's creepy for me to live next door to a cemetery. Um, but whenever I go to the cemetery, it's perfectly fine there.
So maybe I'm just weird, but I picked this bedroom that I live in because out of my bedroom window, it overlooks a cemetery.
Oh, nice.
As a
Yeah, I
matter
got
of
it.
fact, it's the oldest cemetery here in Newport, New Hampshire. So
Oh, wow. That's even
there's
cooler.
graves
Yeah,
out.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, there's graves out there that date to 1829.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I got some with that date at the cemetery next door to me. But yeah, usually I don't think that carries as much energy. I mean, it does carry energy because it's a sad place for some people. Um, but ultimately, in my mind, I think this is where a person was laid to rest. I would imagine it'd be a calmer energy rather than a terrifying one where spirits are just running rampant through the area.
No, I agree with that 100%. A cemetery is a place of rest. It's a place of solace. It's a place of mourning. Yes, you're going to go there and mourn your loved one, but you know that they're at peace. And that is what a cemetery is. It is a place of peace. It is a place of rest. I'm not above people going out and investigating cemeteries. My issue with people investigating cemeteries is when they go out and do it, they do it disrespectfully. They step on the graves. They
Yeah.
don't watch where they're walking. Walk in between the footstone and the headstone. There's a footstone there for a reason. Be respectful. And up here we have an issue with people who like to do this whole paranormal thing and they deface the gravestones. They knock them over and they don't even get me started on that. Because
Yeah,
I'm a
no,
part of the I'm a part of the
that's wrong.
gravestone preservation program here in New Hampshire. So once a year I go out and I help clean headstones.
Oh, that's really cool. I've always thought about doing that here next door.
Let me tell you,
It's really
man,
cool.
it's a great feeling when you can go out there and you can give, someone who probably deserves it that may have been forgotten about because maybe the rest of their family line died off, right?
Yeah,
And you can go out there and you can clean up their headstone. You can make it look like somewhat close to new. Man, it's a
yeah.
great feeling. It's honestly is.
Well, that's really awesome of you. Then, yeah, that's really cool. I've always wanted to do that. Plus, just sometimes it gives somebody their name back. Because sometimes you
Yes,
can't read the names.
100%.
Yeah. Now, have you had a moment to where you did one of your investigations within a residential home or really anywhere, um, where you thought something wasn't going to happen and you were surprised by it?
So I'm just gonna say this here. Are you talking about that? Oh, I just about shit my pants moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I do, and this is my go-to anytime I'm asked this question. Um, there is a small town in Alabama named Elba. It's one of those towns that's so small that if you blinked when you drove through it, you probably missed it.
Wow.
But they were the home to the original Coffee County Jail. So in 1976, Sheriff Neil Grantham was shot to death by a former inmate on the front steps of the jail. The inmate had been released 2 weeks prior to that. We went and investigated the jail on behalf of, I don't know if you guys have what's called the JCs there or not, but they're like a charitable organization that puts on haunted houses every year and stuff like that. They do various different events.
Okay.
So we were contacted by them because they wanted us to come in and investigate the old jail. Well, it took a little bit of runaround. I had to get approval from the mayor. I had to get approval from the city council. I had to get approval from the historical society.
Wow.
Once I finally got all those approvals, the claims of experiences were people were going in for the haunted houses and they would have an actor that was really terrifying. They would go and tell the owner who typically was at the back door entrance, man, the person who was back there, you need to pay that guy more money. He'd look at them and say, "We don't have anybody back there." And so they contacted me. I went in, and mind you, and this is a very key thing for any paranormal investigator out there who believes you have to investigate the paranormal at night. You do not. The town would not let us in there after dark. We had to go in during the daylight. We went there from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m., just when it was starting to get dusk back then because it was summer. There was a moment in time in this investigation. So the way this jail is set up is you have a two-floor jail. And the history research that I did told me that in 1978, there was a flood in that town that killed 24 inmates because they couldn't get to the roof in time. Now, this town is known for flooding. So, like, literally, the people that live in the town can't even get flood insurance anymore.
Wow. Okay.
So, upstairs, you have what's called a bullpen setup, which is basically like an open cell setup for the non-violent inmates, right? Downstairs, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 cells that have 4 bunks apiece. And these are for the people that were known to be a little bit more rowdy. Then you had your one solitary cell for the people that decided to get rowdy while they were in there. This cell had not been opened in so long that it took 3 cans of WD-40 and 5 people to push the door open.
Damn.
I am in there doing EVP work, and I have a camera set up to the left side of the door, and I have a camera set up facing the doorway. Both cameras simultaneously died literally at the same time step. And the cell door that just took so many people to open and so much WD-40 slammed shut on its own volition. I was stuck in the cell for an hour.
Oof. That's a long time, man.
They could not get the door back open. And at first, the first 10 minutes, I was freaking out. I'm not even going to sit here and BS you. I was freaking out. I'm like, what just happened? How did that door close? Like, what is going on? Then the paranormal investigator and me took over, and I'm like, you know what? They can't get the door open, so I'm just going to roll on audio and see what the hell I catch. And what I caught on the audio when I asked, why did you slam that cell door shut? The response that I got via EVP was, because you're in here with me now.
Shit. Yeah. especially with the fact that you couldn't just push the door open. Like, to have that would really like set in the oh shit moment, like you said earlier.
Yeah. It would not have bothered me if it would have been as simple as me walking to the door, pushing it open, and making sure that, you know, none of my investigators maybe bumped the door and maybe it's shut, or maybe they were trying to play a prank on me. You know, what adds validity to the occurrences is the fact that both cameras that I had set on the door died at the exact same time frame, like down to the second.
Yeah.
Which leads to the theory of battery drain.
Yeah, but especially the fact of, if it took 5 people plus the WD-40 to even open it up, I don't think somebody bumping into it accidentally is going to slam it like that on you.
Absolutely not. So that tells me that there was definitely something there that was strong enough to be able to shut that door, kill the cameras. Maybe it had to draw the batteries from the camera. But either way, I actually have some interesting pictures from the jail that I'll send you after the cast.
Okay.
That I've not been able to explain.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you were going there, were you expecting to get anything at all? To have any experience at all? No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like it has its ghost stories. You're thinking, okay, it's just an old spot with ghost stories that people like to share, but nothing really is going to happen.
Yeah, and that's literally what I was thinking. I was thinking we were going in there. It's an old jail. Let's face it. People find places like that creepy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, we're going to go in here. We're going to be here for 4 hours. We're not going to catch anything. I actually have a piece of video I can send you too, where my father who is part of my investigation team. If you didn't know, my investigation team is family owned and family led. So I run the team, and it's my family that investigates with me. And
Oh, that's really cool.
my father, being, maybe a little bit, couldn't figure out how to fix the tripod to the camera. So he's sitting there trying to fix the tripod to the camera, right? And all we hear is this woman's voice that says, "Can we please just go home?" And it's clear as day in this video. And when I send you this video, you won't have to slow it down, nothing. You'll clearly hear it. Now, what I did not know at the time, when I caught this audio and I brought it up to the Historical Society, right? The place that we caught this audio in the 1980s, early 1980s, I think it was 81. The place that we caught that audio was converted into a woman's facility for the county, and the voice that we caught was a woman.
Wow. And then you said it was clear enough to where you don't have to try to discern or say, I
Nope.
think it sounds like this. You definitely knew.
Nope. No enhancements needed. You don't have to pause it. You don't have to slow it down. Nothing. It clearly says, "Can we please go home?"
Wow. Yeah.
If you want to see that footage, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely I would.
Yeah, I'll
I
send it
was
to you.
like
I
a
got you.
good EVP. But that's wild. I mean, I always like those moments better anyways, where you think nothing is gonna happen and then it just kind of surprises you. Because then that
Oh,
lets you know, okay, I have to be on my toes. I have to be on my toes. I can't just walk in here
right.
expecting nothing.
And I mean, luckily for us, because I'm not going to lie, after I got out of that cell, I was freaked out enough that I don't think I would have continued the investigation. But I had chose to go into the solitary cell the last hour of the investigation. So by the time they got me out, we had like 10 minutes left.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, any place else, like when I investigated the USS Salem over here in Quincy, Massachusetts, they locked me in the brig for an hour,
Oh man. Yeah, so
blindfolded.
I guess blindfolded too?
Yeah,
Is
was
that
not a
so
fan of that.
that you had
I don't like not being able to see.
yeah. Was that just so that you can hear better,
Yes,
like so that your senses weren't okay?
it was more of a they wanted me to be able to hear things because what happened on that ship is more audio than visual. There are some visual things, but it's more on the lines of they hear voices, they hear noises. But let's face it, it's a battleship. You're gonna
Yeah.
hear things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine that. I mean, especially if you're going into areas where it's going to be dark anyways, what do you need your eyes for? Uh
Right. No, but yeah, they were like, yeah, the brig has no windows, and we had an idea that we're gonna lock you in there. And I'm like, all right, the
and did
hell, let's do
anything
it.
happen in that moment when you were locked in?
Nothing at all. I didn't feel anything.
Nothing at all.
Like I didn't
Yeah,
feel
man.
anything. The hairs never stood up. I never even felt apprehensive.
Okay. So that was one of those moments. Did you share that with them in that location? Like, hey,
Oh yeah.
maybe it's just creepy and people are creeped out. And when people are really scared, they kind of create things within their mind. Um, and
Oh,
that's what
you're
happens.
100%. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what's going on there. It's just the same as if like I'm gonna call it, because I don't think there's really a phrase for it. I'm gonna call it emotional pareidolia, where you have the visual pareidolia, where you can take a picture of a tree and you can formalize a face in it because your mind's trying to make sense of what it's seeing and it can't really comprehend the grain in the bark, so you
Yeah.
instantly see a face. I feel like your body's emotions can do the same thing.
Yep. I
So
believe that.
maybe your body's emotions are not functioning in a way when you're in that environment that you can understand what's going on, so your mind's trying to make sense of it. So yeah, I'll call it that. I'll call it emotional pareidolia. And
Yeah, I think that's
if
a good
anyone
name
else out
for it.
there starts using that, if anyone else starts using that phrase, you heard it here first.
Yeah, trademark it. You owe him $10 every time you use it. Uh,
I ain't worried about the money. I'm just letting everybody know that if they heard it anywhere else, it was heard here first.
yeah. So that would be the flip side of the moment where you didn't think something was going to happen and something did happen. For that, you were like, everybody's talking about these ghost stories here. Let's lock myself in the brig, blindfolded. Nothing happens.
Yeah, and I
Those
was
are
all
interesting
for it.
too.
Like I was all for it. Don't get me wrong, it caught me off guard. Um, because that was not the plan going in. When they were like, "Hey, would you be willing to do this?" I'm like, "Well, you know what? This is a public event," and so I was like, "What do you guys think? Do you guys think I should do this?" And they all said yes, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're all assholes." But yes, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. I went to go and visit Zach Bagan's haunted museum,
Oh, the
and
haunted
for some
museum.
reason, what was that?
The haunted museum.
Yeah, his haunted museum. I went to go and visit that, and people were terrified of the Peggy room, I guess, because she talks
Oh,
to people or people feel sick there. And they were like, "Does anybody want to go in this room?" And I was like, yeah, I'll go in there. I don't care.
why
I don't
not?
care." Yeah, and I went in there, and there was nothing. It's just a room full of dolls. Of course, it looks creepy because that's the whole shtick with it. Um, but nothing happened. The doll didn't say anything. They have a constant spirit box going for it. Nothing happened. Uh, that I
Yeah,
didn't
and
really
you know,
feel anything within that whole entire museum, honestly, except for
see, and
dizzy
that's
when you're in a room full of strobe lights.
well, yeah, because strobe lights obviously cause disorientation.
Yeah,
I used to
exactly.
run. I used to do a haunted walkthrough every Halloween because Halloween's my Christmas. So I used to do a
Same here.
haunted walkthrough that would run through my backyard all the way out to my front yard, and there was one section of the walkway where I had 5 different strobe lights going at 5 different speeds. And people were like, "Oh, why can't I walk through this? Like, what is going on?" I was like, "That's a disorient. That's a disorient. Dis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
I can't say the word. Disorienting effect. There we go.
Yeah.
It's the angle of the strobe light and the speed that you have it running at. And you know what? And I've discovered through one of the new processes that I'm working on is I'm working on a process that I call strobe light filming, where I've actually figured out how to run 3 different strobe lights, and if you set them at the right setting, your camera won't lose focus.
Oh,
So
really? That's cool.
here's the thing: if when a human walks through a strobe light, they slow down, right?
Yeah,
If a spirit can physically be seen, then why would that not have the same effect in a strobe light?
true. That's true.
So what I've got going on right now is I have 3 different strobe lights set up at 3 different areas running 3 different speeds. And I've got it to the point where the camera will not lose focus. The issue I was having for so many years trying to perfect this is the camera would just, focus in, focus out, focus in, focus out. But I think I finally got the perfect area where I can completely remove that awful effect. And
Yeah.
so far, I've not received any results from it, but it's something that's still worth researching.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the whole point of this. I don't think when it comes to doing the research within the paranormal, you're going to get something right away. I mean, it's awesome if that happens, but that's when it comes even to like doing an investigation within a home, a lot of people don't realize it's a lot of just sitting around and waiting
It
for
is.
something to happen.
It is. It
So
absolutely
that's
is. And by the way, my brother would hate that freaking clown doll behind you.
oh, most people do that come on. They're like, oh, the clown behind there.
You know what? The podcast is called Induced Fear, so why not induce the fear? My brother is chlorophobic, so he hates clowns. I can recall one time I told him we were going to the mall down in Alabama, and I took him with me, and we took a turn, and he's like, "This isn't going towards the mall," and I was like, "I know." We pulled in, and I took his ass to the circus.
Great. Yeah, anytime somebody's like, I'm really scared of the clown, and I was like, well, unfortunately, I can't move him from right here. It's gonna take a lot of work
No,
for me to move him.
yeah, absolutely. This thing's huge.
Yeah, and I'm short, so he's probably almost the same size as me. Uh, but yeah, he's a big guy for the name of Shorty. So
Did you name him after one of the clowns from Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Oh no, he is the clown from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I knew it looked familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, I got
I'm a
it.
huge horror movie buff, so
Oh, same here. Same here. I have collectibles like all over the place. So
I don't have
if anybody,
collectibles, but I've got a DVD collection that has a little bit over 2,200 DVDs and 85% are horror movies.
well, I'm jealous of that, man.
And a lot of them you can't find anywhere. Like I've got the original 1969 13 Ghost. I've got the original 1922 Nosferatu.
Oh,
I've got some stuff. I've got some stuff that has taken me a long time to find, but it's one of those weird things where if I have a remake, I want to own the original.
yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
So it took me a long time to gather up that collection, but you know what? I'm proud of it, and I love it.
Yeah, that's how it is for me, man. That's how it is for me. I got a ton of stuff. And then people come over to my place, they're like, it's like walking into a museum because it's just tons of things everywhere. But as we move forward, you don't just dive into one aspect of the paranormal. I know we've focused really on like the spirit aspect for a while. What drew you into when it goes into cryptids or just unknown creatures of the world? What was your first thing that pulled you in there?
For me, it was my fascination with the Loch Ness Monster. I think Nessie is obviously the most famous. We can all agree the surgeon's photo that is the most famously associated with Nessie is complete BS.
Yeah.
But the Loch Ness Monster always kind of drew me in. And then from that, Mothman.
Yeah.
I think that legend is so intriguing because of the Silver Bridge collapse and because of everything that happened. And people have said that they have cited Mothman, before other disasters as well. So,
Yeah, like a harbinger of doom.
so is it a harbinger of doom, or is it a being of pre-warning?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be either or, really.
So that would be
Because
my
usually
question.
people see him before, right?
Right, for several
Yeah.
weeks. So is
Yeah.
he actually a harbinger of doom, or is he trying to warn people, hey, there's something about to happen here that you need to know about?
Yeah. That would make sense as well.
And you
Now,
have
when
the
you
whole Indrid Cold theory and everything like that.
oh,
So
yeah. Yeah,
that's a
him and
whole
his
other rabbit
smile.
hole that we can discuss another time.
Yeah, as you when you brought up the Loch Ness, that being your first one that really kind of brought you in. Have you heard the theory of what is it? I think it's Aleister Crowley using Solomonic magic in that area. He was trying to, because when you use Solomonic magic, you call forth a demon that does work for you, whatever, you kind of
Right.
do that. But he was trying to call something forward within the Loch Ness, and they stopped him before finishing his ritual there. He stopped in the middle of it. And then from that point on, people started to have sightings of a creature within the Loch Ness.
I can tell you that's a theory that I have not heard. I'd be definitely more than interested in diving into it. But considering the fact that Lake Loch Ness and you have Nessie and you have here in Vermont, you have Lake Champlain and Champy, they're supposed to be cousins. So was Aleister
Yeah.
Crowley here and
Wow,
did the
that would be
same
another
thing in Lake
interesting.
Champlain?
Yeah.
Because if that's not the case, then Aleister Crowley never came here and never attempted the same incantation only to be stopped halfway. I feel like in my logical mindset that would completely dispel any chance of that being a plausibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I remember when I first heard it, I was like, this is really interesting. I don't know
It's an
what
interesting theory.
what I,
I've never heard of
yeah.
it.
Yeah. When I first heard it, it kind of like threw me for a loop. I was like, oh, that's really cool. That would be really awesome. Like, awesome in the sense of like you have an explanation for it. In a magical sense, I
Or
guess,
maybe,
not a real
or
explanation.
maybe, or maybe there is a more logical explanation to it.
Yeah.
Yes, Nessie is claimed to be a plesiosaur, okay? We all know this. But
Yeah.
there are large creatures that exist within the Loch Ness. You have sturgeon. Sturgeon can get huge, and they are prehistoric. I don't feel like the food supply that exists within Lake Loch Ness is enough to sustain a creature as large as a plesiosaur. I think what we're seeing here is a misidentified sturgeon, or maybe an undiscovered species of sturgeon.
Yeah. Do you think
Because
there
they
could
do.
be? Do you
What?
think there could be? There's a lot of people who talk about the spirits of animals as well. Could it be that in a sense? Like that's why nobody can actually find it. Things like that.
No, I think the difficulty with Lake Loch Ness and finding the creature, yes, we have sonar that can read down, X amount of feet or whatever. And I know Lake Loch Ness, I think it can get up to like 170 feet, maybe a little bit more deep in certain areas.
Yeah, I know that it's super deep.
It's super deep in some areas. But yeah, we have sonar and stuff like that. Can I say that it's a spirit? Maybe. But if that was the case, then why are we not seeing the ghost of other dinosaurs
Yeah.
or
Well,
prehistoric creatures?
you do have cultures where they do claim to have a dinosaur still roaming
Oh
in
yeah,
the
the
area.
Macaulay
Like it'll be
Mempeh being a great example.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, those could be
Macaulay
some. I mean, I'm
Mempeh.
not.
I'm
I
not
wouldn't say I'm
discrediting.
100% on everything. Yeah,
I'm not discrediting the thought because anything's plausible. And you know what? And I could be 100% wrong. I mean, maybe there is a creature in Lake Loch Ness, but let's be honest. Anytime any divers have ever went into the loch, the visibility in the loch is only like 5 to 10 feet. So even if you
yeah,
go down there with a high-powered flashlight, you're not going to see much. And plus, when you hit the bottom and you stir up the silt, it is so silty that the visibility goes from that 5 to 10 feet to 1 to 2 feet.
yep,
So realistically, how can you properly explore an area where you really can't see to begin with? And then when you hit the bottom, you stir up the silt and then you really can't see? All they have to do, is rely on the sonar data. And the sonar data could be anything from a large school of fish to possibly a large creature. I mean, so really it's an inconclusive data.
yeah, yeah. Unless they're able to make it so that they can see 100%, I don't think they're ever really going to probably get their answer.
No, I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think they will unless they find a deceased specimen.
Yeah. Which that might be
If they,
hard as well because like we said, there's other creatures that live there and they're known to just kind of clean up themselves. They'll eat whatever's
yep.
there, pick out whatever's there.
And it's not just that, but if you think about it logically, right? What is the plausibility of a plesiosaur having the same bone structure as, say, a shark, where it's all cartilage? So unless the situation is correct to be fossilized, which I know they've found fossilized plesiosaur skeletons in the past, but the situation has to be right. So but let's say the plesiosaur has a similar bone structure, and they fall to the ground of the floor of the lake. Sorry, I'm losing train of thought here. I'm having an ADHD moment.
You're fine, man.
So they fall to the ground of the lake, and then these scavengers eat them up, right? Are there any bones to really look at?
Yeah, and who knows how far they scatter away from each other,
Right, because
things like that.
I mean, the loch doesn't have too many entrances as far as I'm aware of. I think there's
Yeah.
maybe one on the south side and one on the west side. It could be the east side. I might have those backwards. But either way, even those entrances, they're very shallow. So when you look into the theory of, oh, no one's found evidence of Nessie because she travels outside of the loch back into the ocean, a creature that big, you're going to see it going through the channels because those channels are only like 15, 20 feet deep.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, that's why there have been stories of people who have seen it out of the water. Like I think isn't there a story of a little girl who saw it just kind of out of the water on the shore, and then as soon as she saw it, it
Yeah,
went back in.
I'm not sure if I buy that or not, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I feel like those would be urban legends of the area.
Yeah, because like that's such a difficult thing. Because for me, it, as a researcher, if I know there's a large creature that has flippers, for one, it's not going to be out of the water.
Yeah.
For two, if it is out of the water, then I would assume it would act like a crocodile. If it acts like a crocodile, it's going to create a slide. So you would want to photograph the slide and document it.
I don't know, man. It sounds like you have to go there and conduct an experiment within the area, you know?
Um, Lake Loch Ness is on my bucket list. I don't have a passport at the moment. Not that I can't get one. I'm not a felon or anything. I've just never applied for one because they're expensive. Um,
Yeah.
but Lake Loch Ness is on my list of places to visit, but not for Nessie. It's because I want to investigate the castle that sits up top of Lake Loch Ness.
Yeah. That's where they say that Crowley did his spell or something like that. They say it was there in that
Yes,
castle.
investigating Nessie would just be a bonus.
Yeah.
I killed two birds with one stone. Well worth the trip.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. That would be well worth it. Have you
And I don't
done
think I've
like a boots on the ground investigation for anything cryptid related?
I've done a few Bigfoot investigations. I did an investigation into the New Hampshire devil monkeys, which are said to exist up in the White Mountain region. Nothing really happened. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have much to report about that. I mean, I love camping, so being in the woods doesn't bother me. Um, but as far as my cryptid investigations, I've not really had anything exciting happen, I guess, yet. I've never received a wood knock from a Bigfoot investigation. I've never received, the howls from a devil monkey investigation. I used to live in Alabama. I went and investigated the skunk ape once, and I never got the smell that supposedly permeates from the skunk ape. So I have done boots on the ground investigations in the cryptids as well.
Okay. And there were those moments where you figured something's probably not going to happen. This is just going to be a camping trip for me, or were you deep down were you hoping like I hope this is one of those moments where I'm wrong and something happens?
Oh, deep down, I absolutely wanted the experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I would have done if I'd encountered the skunk ape, because they're known to be very territorial and very violent. Um,
Yeah.
but I would have died happy.
Yeah. It'd be
My
a
obituary
crazy
would
way to
have
go
read.
out. Yeah.
My obituary would have read, "Alabama man gets killed by skunk ape."
Yeah. And you live on in infamy with that.
Absolutely, and and like I said, here in New Hampshire, there's not too many cryptids. There are some in Massachusetts and Vermont, and some of them aren't necessarily cryptids. They're more of what I would call fairy creatures or spiritual entities or elementals.
Okay.
When you go down to the Fall River Freetown State Forest, just outside of the Lizzie Borden house, which actually I've slept at the Lizzie Borden house. I actually slept in the spot where the mother was found dead. I
Wow.
experienced nothing in that house.
Yeah.
I think that place is really over accentuated as far as the activity. But
Oh,
if you
it's
go
the
to the
horror
forest,
aspect of it.
yes, but if you go to the forest just south of that, in 1971, it's either 71 or 70, there was a cult that took a woman out there and beheaded her in the name of Satan. Um, that that forest is said to have a lot of activity. I have not yet had the chance to visit the forest, but they have the legend of a cryptid, and or I guess you could say an elemental being that is known as the Pukwudgie. It's supposed to be a gnome-like creature that stands like 3.5 feet to 5 feet, 4 feet tall, like 5 feet a little bit high. Um, Not something I want to encounter. They're known to be very rude.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard a lot about
And
the
they
Pukwudgie.
carry.
So
Oh, you do know about Pukwudgies.
yeah, I actually have a sticker. Let me see. I have a decal that somebody sent me um, of the Pukwudgie because a few
That
friends,
is
I've had a lot of
awesome.
people. Yeah, I've had a lot of people talk about the Pukwudgies. Um, if I can find it, probably can't right now, but
That's fine. So,
yeah,
so if you go
I
into the
definitely know.
if you go into the Algonquin folklore, they have a similar creature known as the Memegwese.
Wow.
You ever
Yeah, I
heard of
haven't
that
heard
one?
that one. No.
So the Memegwese is very similar, only it's more mischievous than it is harmful.
Okay. Almost like we have Tommy knockers out here, and the Tommy
Oh
knockers
yeah,
were kind of mischievous in a way in the mines. So yeah.
yes. So it's kind of weird how you have similar creatures that span, over the indigenous people. They
Yep.
all kind of have the same origin story, but they all act a little bit differently. So
Yep.
you have to wonder, is that adaptation due to the area that they're living in, or is that adaptation due to keeping people out of their area?
Yeah, I was gonna say with the people they interact with, because you also have, from what you said, Pukwudgie, Tommy knockers. We also have the Duende, the little people.
Oh, yep, the
Like,
duende. Yep, the little gnome people.
yeah,
Fuck gnomes.
yep, yeah.
Sorry, I hate gnomes. That's my only
Oh,
fear.
so do I, man. So do I. I just, I just don't like them. But
I will sit face to face with a clown all night and stare at it, but I do not do gnomes.
I don't blame you, man. Now,
Thank you. That was a
as
great
we
way
go
to.
from as we go from there, since you dive into all aspects of the paranormal, you even brought up fae folk, things like that. Um, what about when it comes to extraterrestrial things in nature? Because I know a lot of people think they are, outer space. There are people who believe them to be extra dimensional type of beings. Um,
Realistically, until we have a specimen, which the government might already have one, we don't know that. Um, I think that the universe is too large for us to be the only intellectual beings that exist within the universe. Am I saying that the UFOs or UAPs or USOs, whatever you want to call them, the unidentified submerged objects, unidentified aerial phenomenon, or unidentified flying objects, am I saying that they're aliens? No, that realistically could be reverse technology that we have gathered from other beings that have visited this planet. Do I think that beings have visited this planet? Absolutely. Do I think that they come here to mean us harm? No. There's a theory out there that I have heard that will be more my bought into theory of humans were placed here as an experiment to see if we could thrive.
hmm,
And if that's the case, we are horribly failing.
yeah, they're just watching us kind of run amok.
Right. And so let's put this into a further perspective. If said beings put us here as an experiment, right, they would not have informed us of their existence. So yes, when they come into our airspace and invade our space, no, we're not going to know what they are. But maybe they are the reason that we were ever here to begin with.
Yeah, I mean they talk about that when it comes to the Sumerian people interacting with the Anunnaki and things like that. It's all of like a
Yep.
thing of an experiment, seeing
Yeah,
what we would
and
do.
the Anunnaki is a great example, and not to mention that in the pyramids of Giza, they have depictions of helicopters.
Yeah,
They didn't have helicopters back then. And if you
yeah,
go back and look at a lot of spiritual paintings, they have depictions of UFO-like objects in these paintings. Like, why are they there if we didn't already know that they were here? They've been visiting
yeah,
this planet for thousands of years. Um, why everyone has been denying that they've been visiting this planet, I think it's based on the fact of a misunderstanding because we didn't know why they were visiting. I don't think they're visiting to cause us harm. I think they're visiting because they're checking up on an experiment that they implanted in this
Yeah, I mean, if
particular
something was
planet.
trying to do if something with that amount of technology to do that was actually coming to do harm, I think they would have done it
Oh, we would have been
already.
eradicated by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would have absolutely been eradicated by now. So I have realized, that if you go over UFO reports and stuff, a lot of UFO reports, they take place in one of two places. They take places in rural areas where no one's around, or they take place over military sites that have nuclear technology.
Yep.
So that begs the question: are they trying to really abduct cows? Or are they trying to make sure that our nuclear force does not get so high that it eradicates their experiment on the planet?
Yeah, that it destroys everything. Have you yourself encountered anything, like whether it be seeing something in the sky or anything like that?
As a
That
matter of
kind of
fact, I saw something 5 days ago,
Oh wow,
and my
recent.
my son saw it as well. My son is 8 years old, and he saw it as well. We're sitting on the back porch. I was grilling him hamburgers, and we look out, and I noticed a lot of plane activity. Now, in the area that I live, you might see a plane or two, throughout the night.
Yeah.
We noticed at least 7 different planes in this time frame. And off in the distance, I saw 1 point red light, 1 point red light, 1 point red light. It was a triangular object. All the lights were
Wow.
blinking in unison, but it was way too big to be a plane. And I wasn't the only one that saw this. There was actually a thing called What's Up Newport, and people went on and asked if anyone else has seen the object they saw in the sky.
Wow. So not only having your son see it as well, but even people posting about it and asking about it, you were like, all right, what I saw is validated 100%.
I have no reason to not validate it because
Yeah.
I couldn't explain it. If it was an airplane, you would have had the flashing lights. You would have had the white, red, white, blue, white, red, white, blue, or whatever various colors that they use. These were not that kind of light. It was a pulsing red light in a triangular format, similar to what you would have seen. And I cannot remember the name of the video. The name of the video slipped my mind at the moment, but it was a very famous UFO video where thousands of people over a big city saw it.
Oh, was it the
It was
Phoenix Lights?
reminiscent. Yes, the Phoenix Lights. Thank you.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
reminiscent of that to me in the shape.
Okay.
And considering the fact that when I woke up the next morning and multiple people had posted that they had seen it and were asking if anyone knew what it was, I'm like, okay, so I wasn't seeing things. Because my mother came outside while I was grilling the hamburgers, and I said, hey, Mom, see that over there? She's like, yep, that's a plane. See that over there? She said, yep, that's a plane. I was like, well, can you tell me what the hell that is? And she looked over and she was like, I don't know what that is. But it was so far
Wow.
away that if I tried to record it, the film would get blurry. And I'm not going to be that
Yeah.
person that records a blurry video and puts it out there for everyone to see.
To where you have to circle exactly where you want somebody to see and things like
Yeah,
that.
I'm not my style. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Is this a small town that you live in?
Very small.
Or is it very small? Yeah, because again, I had somebody on pretty recently, a couple months ago, and one of his stories that he lives in Ohio and he lives in a small town and he saw a triangular shaped object in the sky with amber colored lights in a triangular formation. The same
Interesting.
thing. Him and his kids saw it. Um, and a few people within his small town also saw it and were asking questions about it. So it was interesting that people are starting to see these over these smaller towns, because before it was over big cities where
Right.
you can have many things to kind of explain it away. But I think in a smaller town with less light pollution, things like that, it kind of leads
I can
to the credibility in that.
I can tell you that looking in the direction that I was looking, there was nothing in that direction but trees.
Wow.
So there would definitely not be a light pollution. And me being me, I went over every logical thing that I could think of in my mind. Maybe the Air Force Base is running some kind of formation, but that still wouldn't make sense because the lights would be flickering different colors. This stayed a pulsing same color. I,
Wow.
I've got nothing to explain it. I really wish I could have got a clear video of it, but I couldn't. I tried.
Yeah, no, sometimes I like those moments also when you feel like you have no explanation for it because then you're like, this is definitely something I can't explain it away. So it's definitely something unknown. Because it was the same for me when I
100%.
had my UFO experience, and my experience was something coming from the sky and almost going straight towards my car to the point where I had to swerve. And in my head, I I tried to explain it. Okay, I saw a helicopter, and at the same time I saw the helicopter, somebody was driving the wrong way on the freeway. But
Reflection, refraction.
yeah,
I get it.
so I tried to explain that away, and then when I looked behind me, there's no tail lights, anything like that. Unfortunately, my brother was asleep in the car, so he didn't witness it with me. But it's still one of those moments where it racks my brain because
Right.
I want to know exactly what it is.
No, and as you should. I mean, I feel like anytime anyone experiences anything like that, if it doesn't cause that impulse in their brain to be like, I need to know what that is, I need to better understand this, then maybe that person is just really closed minded.
Yeah. I mean, the tagline of this show is "Ask questions, face your fears." So
Yes.
that's what I would want people to do, which is ask the questions when these things happen. Don't be
Yeah,
afraid of it.
absolutely.
Face it.
And you know what? And that's the whole thing. And anybody out there watching this podcast, if you ever want to ask me a question, I'm available on TikTok. I'm available on Instagram. I'm available on Facebook. If you experience something that you don't think you can explain and you have footage of it, send it to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a good thing within this community is that you have people who are there to genuinely help out, such as yourself.
Right.
You're there to genuinely help out.
Yeah. I don't expect, I don't accept or expect money from what I do. Like I said, I've never even gained a profit off of my TikTok. I've never gained a profit off my Facebook. I just do what I do because I love it.
Yeah. Have you had any moment to where when you speak about these things, it tends to happen within where you're living? Like, they speak of it and it shall appear type moment.
You talking about like speaking of it and putting it out into the universe is just like an ethereal speak.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like you're so always in this world that you feel that things happen to you more often than probably the normal person.
I have had that happen before, but to be honest with you, it's one of those things that I don't hold a lot of credibility to. So
Yeah.
I have not had a moment that would stand out in my mind that would be notable to speak of.
Okay. And uh before we close out anything and we get all where people can find you, our mutual friend Ricky Walker wanted me to ask you
Very
this
good.
specific question. He wanted me to get your thoughts on demons.
He did that on purpose.
Yeah, he did.
He did that on purpose because I've been investigating the paranormal for 17 plus years and I've never encountered a demon. I think a lot of people misinterpret demons as nasty human entities. Let me tell you, I get the whole thing of, having an exorcist come in if you really feel like you need it. But here's the thing. If a person was a naturally nasty person in life, they're going to leave behind a very nasty residue. Just because you get bit during an investigation, or you get scratched, or you're hearing the three knocks of the triad, what you know what it may not be a mocking of the Trinity. Maybe they're putting out their energy and they added an extra knock. Maybe they meant to do two. Maybe they meant to do one. Who really knows? But the simple fact of the matter is, I've been investigating the paranormal for 17 plus years. I have never encountered a demonic entity. And I think that the way that the media, such as TV shows and all these YouTube programs, that push demon, 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 I'm sorry, they're not as common as they would like you to believe. And if that's a fear of yours, then you are probably fearing for nothing, because demonic infestation, demonic possession does not happen nearly as often as these television shows and social media would like you to believe. And I know Ricky
Right.
asked you to ask me that because he knew it would kind of turn my burners there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he did that.
Yeah, I'll have a
But yeah,
conversation with him afterwards.
yeah, I told him today. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be talking to Nate today," and he was like, "Okay, ask him this question."
Oh, dickbag. Love him to death.
But
Love him
yeah,
to death, though. He's a good dude.
I think it does fall into that line. I think most people will say demon to get the views, to sell their tickets, to anything like that. Um,
Absolutely.
like I'm not 100%. I'm not an expert in any way. I've done investigations. I've researched things. I've talked to millions of people who, not millions of people, but tons of people who have their experiences. Uh, very little, like you have said, have had demonic things happen. And if anything, there could be a a regular spirit who just wants to mock that and make you more afraid that, like,
Yeah.
oh, it could be a demon, but it's this. Um,
Yeah. 'Cause
so
you
yeah,
know
I would
what?
take.
I've encountered several cases where all you have to do is tell your client, stand up to it. I don't care if you think it's evil. Stand up
Yeah.
to it. Stand your ground. Take your house back. No exorcism required, because it's not a demon.
Yep. Yeah, I've had that. I've had to tell. I mean, like I said, I'm no expert, but I do tell people, listen, you got both your spiritual energy and your physical energy. You're already above whatever it is that's there.
Right.
You got two you got two sets of energy. You can tell this thing to just get lost.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Just people sometimes need that empowerment to be able to actually do it.
Yeah. Well, man, if you want to let everyone know where they can find you, I know you put out tons of videos. So where people want to find you. I know you also do appearances and do
I do.
conventions, right?
I do.
Okay.
So if you just want to see my content, you can find me on TikTok at Static Voices. My YouTube is the same, Static Voices. If you would like to meet me in person, I have two undisclosed events that I cannot disclose yet because I've been asked
Yeah.
not to by the event promoters. Um, but July 18th and 19th, I will be flying from New Hampshire to Wisconsin, and I will be at the Paranormal Rockdown event at the Broadhead Manor. Great location. I've never been there, but I'm looking forward to it because after the event ends, I have free reign of the facility. I'll be staying there all night long, both
Oh,
nights.
hell yeah.
So that's going to be amazing. July 26th and 28th, or through the 28th, I'll be at the Gettysburg Bash in Pennsylvania. And like I said, I have a few other events going on that I cannot announce yet, but I promise you, if you follow me on my TikTok, I will be announcing those events. I'm traveling to several states this year. So,
Wow, busy, busy, man.
oh, let me tell you, July, I've got 3 events, 3 weekends in a row, all of them in different states.
I don't know how you'll do it, but I know with you wanting to let people know your research and just talk with people, um, probably give you that energy that you need to keep going through those weeks.
Oh, so I do got one more. I'm sorry, I misread my notes. I had to write it all down.
No
September
worries, man.
6th and 7th. If you're in the Maine area, I will be at the Maine Paranormal and Horror Convention in Augusta, Maine.
Sweet. Yeah, and then everybody, I'll put all of your information down in the show notes below. That way people can just hit the link, head to your stuff, give you a
Sounds good to
follow.
me.
Definitely everybody listening and watching, give him a follow on any one of his social media platforms. If you're in the areas where he's going to be speaking or you'll be able to meet him, definitely meet him. The work he does is cool in the sense because it's not just putting fear out there. I know the show's called Induced Fear, but it's about facing it, and you're going to help people get answers when it comes to certain things.
For
Um,
me, inducing the fear is when I have something that I cannot explain. That will induce the
yeah,
fear.
yeah. Exactly. But again, I want to say, like I said in the beginning of the show, I appreciate you coming on.
Man, anytime you
It's been
want
a
me on,
blast,
I
man.
was more than happy to be a guest. I greatly appreciate the invitation to come on and speak. Um, love, I love the content you're putting out, and anytime you want to have me back, I will be more than welcome. I'm more than willing. You just give me dates.
Of course, man. 100% we'll make it happen again. To everybody listening, watching, don't forget to ask questions and face your fears. Thanks for joining me and Nate on this episode of Induced Fear.